there appears to be a glaring conflict between the promise made to Avraham regarding Eretz Yisrael to that of the actual borders recorded in Sefer Bamidbar and Sefer Devarim. At the Brit Ben Habatarim, Avraham was promised that Lezaracha natati et aretz hazot, I have already allocated this land to your descendants, that land being Min Nahar Mitzrayim ad Nahar Hagadol Nahar Prat, a distance of approximately 1100 kilometers. What they got in actuality, according to the borders recorded at the conclusion of Sefer Bamidbar, and supposedly the area of land shown to Moshe just before he died, was substantially smaller than that promised to Avraham. Which begs the obvious question, why the difference between Bereshit and Devarim? One approach is that what we have here are two different stages of the promise regarding Eretz Yisrael. One, a future short term that took place 540 years after the promise made to Avraham Avinu, whereas the other relates to a future long term, the ultimate fulfillment of this promise in the Yemot HaMashiach. With this distinction, we can address the issues regarding the allocation of land to Bnei Reuven, Bnei Gad, and a portion of Shevet Menashe. One of the segments of the Gutnik Chumash, aside from the translation, is Torat Menachem, that synthesizes and crystallizes the ideas expressed in the original Sichot of the Rebbe, without belaboring the reader with the rather complicated sources drawn from the Midrash. In a very concise manner, there is a presentation of the material covered previously, namely, that when Moshe received the Torah at Har Sinai, it was a single revelation that contained every aspect of Judaism that was later to develop from it. This, of course, is a faith statement that one either accepts or rejects. But built upon this faith statement is the concept that even future revelations of the Messianic era are rooted in the Torah that was already given to Moshe. This we mentioned earlier, based upon both the Medrash and the Yerushalmi, that not only were the Aseret HaDibrot and the Chamishi Chumshei Torah linked to Moshe Rabbeinu, but also the Nevi'im Ketuvim, the Torah Sheba'al Peh, and the Torah to be taught in the Yemot HaMashiach. This led to the logical extension that even though Moshe did not merit to enter Eretz Yisrael, he nevertheless had a connection to it, and it is for this reason that God showed him the land before he passed away. Likewise, the expanded borders of Eretz Yisrael that will exist in the Messianic era, this includes the lands east of the Jordan, also have an intrinsic connection to Moshe Rabbeinu by virtue of the fact that he received the entire Torah. Consequently, Moshe, presumably aware of the ultimate fulfillment of the promise at the Brit Ben Habatarim, wished that some of these lands be inhabited upon his instruction, that is, the lands on the east side of the Jordan, as a prelude to their full occupation in the Yemot HaMashiach, in order to stress his personal connection with the entire land. Hence, the giving of a portion of land on the east side of the Jordan to the Chatzi Shevet Menashe. With this, we return to the core difficulty raised at the very beginning of this journey, namely, according to the narrative, it was the Bnei Gad and the Bnei Reuven who made the request to settle on the east side of the Jordan. Why is it then, when it came to the actual implementation, following the toing and the froing between Moshe and the Bnei Gad and Reuven, Moshe also allocates a portion of land on the east side of the Jordan to a segment of Shevet Menashe? His actions run in conflict to his extreme displeasure with Bnei Gad and Bnei Reuven when you compared them to the actions of the Meraglim 40 years earlier. In response, we can make a distinction between the Bnei Gad Bnei Reuven allocation to that of Menashe. That while the land allocated to Bnei Gad Bnei Reuven was deemed to have resulted from a negative sequence of events, be it greed, be it on account of misplaced priorities, and hence halachically that land is not considered part of Eretz Yisrael proper. With respect to the allocation of land to the Chatzi Shevet Menashe, that allocation is deemed to be positive, one that Moshe gave to Menashe, so as to create a personal connection with not only Eretz Israel of the short-term future, but also Eretz Israel in the Messianic era. The only question that remains is that given the fact that Moshe intentionally gave a portion of land on the east side of the Jordan, why was Shevet Menashe selected for this symbolic allocation over the other 9 tribes?